guys, this is another entry in the Allan's Answers podcast, and this is for August 27th, 2010, and this is episode number 6. And I've had 4 really cool questions, philosophical questions on Yahoo Answers, and the first one comes from I Heart Journey and Steve Perry, and they asked, do you ever feel like life's just a dream? And there are always going to be situations. I feel like there's aspects to this that kind of differentiate between life and a dream. And reality is when, like, things are reality. Your sense of reality has come from a basis of all the years that you've existed so far, like what you've learned up to now and realize is actually being physically real is what your determination of what reality is. And so whenever anything contradicts that or goes against your general basis of knowledge for reality, then you can sometimes just think like, oh, that's a dream, like we've all heard the saying, pinch me, I'm dreaming, because there's something so shocking or something that people just automatically write off as ever coming to reality, that they just feel like it's a dream. So, and of course, I feel like it's inevitable that many people will live and experience situations like this in their lives, so I would have to say, yes, I have felt like life is just a dream, so hopefully that answers your question. And then the second question that we got up comes from Snow on La, I guess that's her name, and they asked, do you think in order to find, you have to stop the search? And I wanted to talk about this one because I feel like that in life, a life is kind of just a big search. It's like, I guess, self-discovery and finding your purpose in life and determining the own meaning of life in your own individual circumstance. So I feel like we go through life and experience a lot of things and try and figure out like our purpose, and we self-discover ourselves in the process. Like going through high school, we determine what our interests are, what we want to do for a living, and then we continue to develop and build onto those base characteristics of each individual, and that's in a sense leads us to the search. But I feel like an important thing about searching is that we don't always we don't always know what we're looking for, and because of that, I feel like that you don't necessarily have to stop searching in order to find things, because I feel like that we automatically are always searching, even if we don't consciously recognize it. We always scan our environment, we always just take in and respond to the different stimulus that our surroundings provide and evoke onto us, So I feel like that we're always searching regardless of if we notice it or not, and sometimes you just kind of have to let things happen to you. Not necessarily change, because you always want to be the change that you want. You always want to inspire and create the change that you want, but I feel like in order to find exact situations, you can't always just go out there and like look in one place and expect to find something. Sometimes it just takes time in order for that thing to come to you. So I don't think you ever have to stop, and I don't think you ever will stop, but I think it just takes time and I guess chance and luck in order to find what you're looking for sometimes. But that's just my opinion. Hopefully that answered your question. And then Mrs. Norris asks, what are some limitations of scientific inquiry and experimentation? And mostly referring to the scientific method. And the reason I wanted to talk about this one, it's a lot more science-based than philosophy, but I just thought that I had something cool to share, I guess, interesting, about how basically scientific inquiry and experimentation. Inquiry is basically asking questions, and relates to the last part about searching. When you do the scientific method, you're looking for an answer to a question and a hypothesis and a theory that you pose in the beginning of the experiment, and that you are searching for an answer. And you have to make sure that the inquiry or the question is worded correctly, or else you're not necessarily going in the right direction that you want to look for, So you have to kind of specify it and funnel down information and data that you collect during your experimentation in order to kind of nail down and pinpoint exactly the answer that you're looking for. And sometimes, like the dream, the answers aren't always what you expected to be real, and so sometimes it's kind of, I guess, unexpected. But I feel like that's something that you have to think of before you're starting a theory. And experimentation, I learned this somewhere. I don't really necessarily remember the theory or the principle of it, but basically, whenever you are observing something, your very existence is affecting the situation that you're observing. Like when you're observing animals in the wild, you just being there completely changes the experiment, because it's going to be completely different than what it would be like if you weren't there. Like animals will be aware of your that you're around them and they'll act differently because of it, you know? Like, you just observing it changes the situation completely. And I remember another example in chemistry when they were talking about, I think, electrons. You can't pinpoint exactly the speed and direction of at the same time of an electron, because once you have the direction going down, you can't determine how fast it's going, and once you have how fast it's going, you can't pinpoint exactly where it is, you know? It's just how things are. So those are some limits of how you experiment and try and actually figure out things. So just thought that was a little good input to put in here. So hopefully that answers it, Mrs. Norris. And then the last one that I have is Mesame asks, how does mindfulness play a role in your everyday life? And I think of mindfulness as actually actively thinking and actively responding to what your environment presents to you. You know, like, you're actually thinking about how things are going as they're happening, and it relates on being here and now and in the present, because you want to respond to it as it's happening. You want it like real time. So since I like doing my philosophy and stuff, I think a lot, and so I feel like that's a huge role in what I do. I just think about things that it's not necessarily reacting to what's in front of you here right now, but it's also thinking about things that are in the future that are completely unrelated to your current situation. You know, like, you just daydream off into a certain topic that has nothing to do with what you're doing right here, right now, but it just is something interesting to think about. So I feel like mindfulness plays a huge role in my everyday life, because it allows me to think about new things and kind of develop like new topics for my philosophy stuff, or just new answers to a problem and situations and obstacles that I face in my everyday life. And it definitely takes time, because when you think and actively consciously think, not just subtly think, it takes your energy and your awareness into, like, kind of off what you're doing here, right now. So I guess that in a sense also affects your everyday life. So those are just my 2 points. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of Allan's Answers podcast, and hopefully you'll come back for more tomorrow. So I will see you then. Bye.